welcome to Manly Monday Live. Guys, I am so excited to be here tonight. I absolutely love hanging out with you guys on Mondays, and this is just a high point in my week. I look forward to these shows. Why? Because I get to interact with you. I love my podcast, don't get me wrong. It's the core of what I do here on The Fallible Man and the way I share things. But one of the things that stinks about podcasting industry is I don't actually get to interact with you guys a lot on my podcast. The podcasting industry is not really great about interaction and feedback. There's no DMs or anything like that on a social media platform. So we actually don't get to hear a lot from our regular listeners. I love doing the live streams because I get to hang out with you guys and it makes my life so much fun because that is what I want to do here on The Fallible Man is interact with you guys and connect and walk with you on your journeys. And this lets me do that in such a better light. So I'm so excited to be here with you on another Manly Monday Live, guys. We're doing a special edition of Manly Monday Live. We are doing the Ask Me Anything edition of Manly Monday Live. Guys, I put it out on all of my social media platforms this morning and last night, as well as being posted on YouTube and on Facebook, right? To gather questions because tonight is all about answering your questions, right? I do a lot of shows about a lot of things, but for me, I want to be able to answer your questions because what matters to you is what I want to be talking about. It's what I want to go through with you. It's what I want to share with you as you go through that journey. I want to make sure I'm answering your questions because I want to walk alongside you in this journey. So we're so excited about the show tonight, guys. And as you go through the show tonight, if you have a question, please put a QQ in it in the chat section of whatever platform you're watching, guys, so that you can have your questions answered. And we will do our very best to answer those questions as succinctly as possible, although I don't promise that I won't meander a little bit because I tend to go for longer answers. That's just me. Sorry. If you'd like to jump on live on air, guys, we have a form. The link is in the description, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, it doesn't matter. And you can click on that form and fill out a private form. And that will allow me to send you an invitation to join me live on air on the show if you'd like to. Or you can just put your question in there if you don't want to sound off in the chat here. If you want to ask the question quietly, maybe you're not comfortable asking the question that you have in a public manner where you can be seen. But I want you to be able to ask the questions. So you can hit me up on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram DM, and I will answer questions from there. I'm trying to watch those. So if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my other screen so I can make sure and check those, get questions from those as well, because we want to serve the community and make sure your questions are getting answered, guys. So that's a lot to say. Also, if you're on Facebook and you want your little logo to show, like Dave here, right? If you want to be able to see that Facebook picture and that icon and share your name, you have to go and you're just seeing a letter in front of your name in the chat. You have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and tell Facebook it's okay to share that information with us on the show. That's how you fix that. Now you know. Simple enough. I see Dave is in the chat. I see Charles is in the chat. And so I'm really excited, guys. We're going to have some great conversation tonight. Tonight is all about your questions and it's all about you. So without further ado, let's get into it. Dave is sounding off in the chat. I don't want to toot my own horn. So I'm not going to read the entire comment, but he was saying thank you for, I've been doing some work with him this last week. He's going through some difficulties in life right now with the loss of a loved one, and I've been down spending a lot of time helping with him. It's also part of the show why we're doing an Asking Me Anything show. And so, Dave, trust me, your gratitude is felt deeply, brother. I'm here for you. This is what the Fallible Man is about. Okay, so Dave and I go way back long before the Fallible Man started. But he has had my back every step of the way. But this is what it is about, is a brotherhood of men supporting and helping other men. I also see that Sir Ludwig Columbus, forgive me if I said that wrong, has jumped into the chat. Thanks for jumping in, and let's get into questions. And we'll just start rolling down the line, guys, just as fast as we can. Be sure and put that QQ in there. My wife is in the background doing the engineering and making sure that I see your questions. That way we can make sure and answer those for you tonight. We'll start off with the easy one. Dave says, how much does plumbing suck? I was redoing the bathroom in his father's house, and plumbing sucks. I spent a lot of years in construction, guys, and I can do almost anything building a house. Plumbing is my weak point, and we had a lot of frustration over that one this week. Charles says, what do you do if your wife thinks your Superman has no empathy for male weakness? That's a really valid question, Charles. And so I'll do my absolute best to answer that for you. Now, for one, you have a winning situation, right? Your wife thinks you're Superman. And so that's good. That's a great thing in a relationship. It's spectacular that your wife respects you and looks up to you and thinks you're very capable. And so that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. But yes, it can cause some problems, right? When your wife has such a high opinion of you that she doesn't leave any room for failure or weakness or downtime or struggles, that can be really, really difficult. And so I think one of the best ways, you just have to start working on opening up lines of communication with your wife. Now, you have to, and I've had some videos on the differences between the way men and women think. I've had some videos on the difference, understanding the difference in what the way your wife, your spouse communicates with you. And so you can go dig into those some more. But communication is key, right? You obviously are not Superman. I have no doubt that you are giving your best to become Superman and to be that Superman for your family. I think all of us men are, whatever role we're in, whether it's man, husband, or father, whatever role or aspect we're in right now, I think all of us want to be Superman for our families. And it's very difficult for us to accept when we're not sometimes. But it can be really difficult when your wife has such a high opinion of you that she puts that extra pressure on you and doesn't want to see the bad side. That's great for love. Okay. We look and we see the best parts of our spouses, and that's awesome. Right. I choose to see the very best sides of my wife. She chooses to ignore all my many faults and see the best sides of me. And that's how a marriage and a relationship should work, but it can create blind spots. So you really need to dig in and start working on communicating with your wife in a way that she communicates, right? She's human. You love your wife, you love her faults, good points, bad points. But at some point, it actually will really cause you to start resenting your wife if you can't open up this line of communication with her. So I think you need to spend some time and really get a handle on how your wife communicates best, because there are different styles of communication. And, what is her love language? How does she speak love? Because you're going to need to speak this to her gently while straightforward, but you need to speak it to her in a way that's caring, in a way that she's going to understand. If she communicates better verbally, then you need to get into that deep conversation. If she communicates better in written form, maybe that starts a whole texting conversation or writing conversation between the two of you. Maybe she needs to be side by side or to have that physical contact, the hand holding or whatever, but you need to really invest in how is the best way to communicate with your spouse so that you can start communicating that to her. Because at some point she's going to learn that you do have limitations, and it's better to have that conversation before that happens. So invest in how she talks, how she thinks, how she communicates, and that will be the start to that conversation. And that's probably not the best answer ever, but all I can give you, because I don't know you and your wife that well, I don't know your wife at all, I know you a little bit. This is the start of that conversation together, is learning to communicate effectively with her and Charles, if this is who I think it is, reach out to me after the show. I'm actually our local church is actually putting on a class specifically about learning to communicate with your spouse by Dr. Les and Leslie Parrott. That is a phenomenal class. I've been through it before. My wife and I are going to it again. That I would highly recommend, that will help you guys communicate more effectively. So be sure and ping me there. You can catch me on Facebook or wherever, and I'll send you that information as well. So I hope that helps you out, Charles. Thanks for jumping on, and thanks for asking a question. Mitch says, "What's up, Mitch? Great to see you, man. Thanks for jumping on tonight." Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Spaghetti is an awesome book that helps understanding those difficulties. I 100% endorse that book. In fact, you will find a link to it on my website. I have a library section on my website for all the books that I recommend on my various shows. And I actually did an entire video, short video, like 7 to 10 minutes on my YouTube channel, specifically about that book, because that book was so beneficial for my wife and I's communication. Sir Lewick Columbus says, is there any truth behind New Age spirituality, or is there no such thing as a spirit world? Whew. Going deep, Ludwig. You're going deep on me. So I guess the only answer I can give you is what's true for me, right? I don't believe in what a lot of people will call New Age spirituality. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in God. I am a practicing Christian. I'm not always a very good Christian. I do try my best like anybody else. But I believe there is a spiritual world. I believe there is spiritual warfare and spiritual battle going on all around us. And some people are more in tune to that than others. So I guess it's going to really come down to what you're defining as New Age spirituality. I'm into yoga. Some people do that as a spiritual outreach and think there's a spiritual side to it. I do it for my back because it helps my health and my sciatic nerve. I like meditation, but I don't meditate necessarily to connect to a higher power. I meditate to clear my head and just let some of it out and get a handle on things. So it depends, I guess, on what you're calling New Age spirituality. But I do believe 100% that there is a spiritual world. I believe very much in the God of the Bible. And so I hope that answers your question. I'd love to go deeper on that with you if you want to. If you want to clarify that question, you can hit me up on my DMs or message me or put a comment on the YouTube video, and I will respond to that more deeply because I want to understand the question so I can address it appropriately. But to start the answer, I think that's the best I can do. Is I don't know that I believe in all the New Age stuff, but I do believe there is a spiritual world and that there is a God and so on and such forth. So I hope that helps answer your question. Mitch says we need a doctorate degree in our spouses. I think you could get a doctorate degree and you'd still be up a creek without a paddle half the time. Says check out the video, and I'm 100% with you on that. Guys, keep the questions coming. Whatever platform you're on, like I said, I have the link in the description for the form if you want to send it that way, or if you want to come on air. I'm also checking as we go my Facebook and my Instagram for any connections there. And we have some other questions that have come in through the day. So let's get into those questions, starting with Adam sent me this on Facebook. What do you think about toxic masculinity? Now, for a little clarity, let me step back from the camera just for a second. Can you see the shirt? Can you see the shirt? Toxic masculinity is a throwaway cultural term that's going to die out in another couple of years. I think toxic masculinity culture is just a front title for women complaining about things and men complaining about things. I think there is such thing as a toxic person. I think there is toxic masculinity to an extent, but that's on the extreme pendulum swing. I think there's also toxic femininity. Femininity, did I say that right? We hope. And that's on the other end of the pendulum swing. Anything can be taken to an extreme, right? I did an entire video on alpha internet males and that nonsense. I see guys on YouTube all the time, and as a fellow YouTuber, I'm like, you're really hurting our cause here, man. You're killing us. I see guys on YouTube beating their chest and acting like a bunch of idiots and like doing the stupidest things and be like, yeah, this is a man. Just shut up. Just stop. You're hurting the cause. You're not helping our argument at all here. Anything can go to an extreme. I think there are men trying to be good men. I think masculinity is critical for the world to function correctly. For all of us to achieve our best purposes, we have our best goals, our best ends. We have to follow the path that's laid out before us, right? Men need to seek their best selves. Women need to seek their best selves. There are toxic traits that are not uniquely male or female. There are toxic traits that are uniquely male and uniquely female, right? Because there are differences between men and women. YouTube may kick me off for that. So if the video stops, you know why. YouTube censorship. But there are differences between men and women. So yeah, there's bad examples of men, but the idea of toxic masculinity that's prevalent today is absurd. Because the idea of toxic masculinity that is prevalent today is all men are measured on the very worst examples of our species. All men are uncontrollable sex maniacs who are going to rape any woman they come across. I'm going to get kicked off YouTube for tonight, I'm sure. Right? That is they look at rapists and murderers in prison and go, this is what all men are. Well, that's absurd. You don't base an entire species, an entire group of people on the very worst of anyone, right? If we were to say that all women are based on supermodels, and if you're that's what all women are like, that's not a fair assertion, right? Assumption, whatever the right word is. I screwed that up. Sorry. That's not a fair answer to anybody. So toxic masculinity is just a cliche term that we're using right now to shame everything about men that some people, different political views see as bad and some groups see as bad, right? Some extreme feminists, right? Like I said, the toxic feminists see as bad. Some extreme leftist liberal groups see as bad, right? Some extreme men who are feminists see as bad. The Super Bowl commercial for Gillette, was it Gillette? That was such a wow. I would be perfectly happy if they went out of business. That was such an absurdity to run that kind of massive stereotype that is just unreal. So toxic masculinity is just a catch-all for people who have problems with certain types of men. And it's a whole lot easier to blame all men than to actually deal with the real problem or the real person behind it. That's where toxic masculinity comes from. So that's what I think of that term. I sell the shirt both on Amazon and on my website, Essential Masculinity, because men, you are essential, and developing your masculinity is essential for this world to thrive. Masculinity crossed the ocean. Masculinity built the great societies of our past. Masculinity forged some of the greatest improvements in this world. Yes, women contribute to society. I would never put them down, but I talk to men predominantly, and masculinity has carried us through the ages all you have to do is be a student of history to understand that. All right. Men who are masculine built society. And while it may not be perfect, it is a whole lot better than it is in a lot of places. Next question, because I can rant about that all night long. I got this question earlier today. How do you identify areas of your life where growth is needed? This is a really honest question and really difficult to answer because usually it's a pain point, right? When you find a spot where you need to grow, it's usually because you found yourself coming up short somewhere, right? You had an experience and you realize you reacted badly, or you didn't know all the things you needed to know. Now, the other side of that coin is where you to have an honest look at your life and go, this is who I am. This is what I want to achieve. And so for me to achieve that, I need to be A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, well, I'm A, kind of B, but C is, I'm not real good at, right? So there's honest evaluation where you look at yourself and you look at where you want to go as a person, whether that's improving yourself so you can get a better job, whether that's improving yourself so you have better relationships. There is that stage where you look at where you want to go and have really honest conversations with yourselves and self-evaluation and go, for me to reach that goal, for me to go to that place, for me to achieve that dream, I need to be X, Y, and Z, and I'm not. So that's where I need to grow. So that's one way, right? Goal-oriented, mission-oriented self-evaluation. The other way, and more prevalent, is when you just run into a situation where you're like, yeah, I kind of fell short there, didn't I? And this happens very often. And it doesn't just happen to men, it happens to women too. But I mean, this happens to me all the time. This is not unusual, where you just get into a situation that you didn't know you were going to be in necessarily, or you didn't know that you were going to have to handle or come face to face with. And all of a sudden you just find yourself lacking, right? Afterwards, you look at that situation and go, well, you know, if I had been X, Y, Z, then that situation would have gone better, right? And that's usually the other way you identify it. Is the proactive way would be through self-evaluation, honest reflection, and goal setting, because you know this is where I want to go and this is what I need to do to achieve that. And that's the proactive way to find places where you need to grow in your life. The more common way for a lot of people is you get into a situation and you go, man, I wish I had handled that better. Man, I wish that had gone differently. And if I had done this, or if I had known this, or if I had been this way, that would have. And that is probably the most common way people find the need for growth in their life, is they get into a situation that they come up short on and they just are like, wow, that sucked. Next time I will not be caught off guard. Now, guys, if you're enjoying this, be sure and throw in the questions, put a QQ in front of them. If you're just joining us, sound off in the chat, guys. Become part of the conversation, because these shows are so much better that way. And I just love interacting with you guys. Let us know you're here. Put your questions in there. There's also a link under the video wherever you're watching it right now. You can also DM me on all of my social media platforms. I am monitoring them right now for comments, as well as checking the form that is listed under this video. And before we keep going, guys, I wanted to tell you about our upcoming event, the Phoenix. The Phoenix Conference is our in-person or virtual conference that we do. In this last year, we had Phoenix, our first ever in-person conference, and it was amazing. We spent 2 glorious days with a bunch of men talking about mentorship specifically. Come February 10th and 11th, we're still in negotiations about February 12th, possibly extending this event. We will be back on track with Man on a Mission as our theme, guys. We believe that you were born for a purpose, that you have a purpose that is specific to you, as well as general purposes. And we want to do everything we can to aid you in finding that purpose. And your purpose and my purpose may be very different, but they're both very important. And so I've got incredible speakers. That was Jim Fuller and Diamond Well and Oliver Marcel. Sorry, I just blanked one of my best friend's names. On there, they are our first 3 speakers. I'm actually in talks with 3 other people right now. We only have about 7 speakers. We're also going to have competition, a strongman competition for our in-person attendees. That's going to be very exciting. But guys, whether you attend virtually, and our virtual attendees get a lot of cool things as well. We stream the sessions. We have breakout rooms using Zoom, where you will actually get to talk with the speakers, not me, not somebody. Like, I use my speakers to handle the breakout sessions for the online group. So guys, get involved. Tickets are on sale right now. They are on early bird prices. The prices are going to go up. I can't do this as cheap as I would love to, because unfortunately I'm still paying for the last one. But guys, early bird tickets are on sale right now. They're only going to go up from here. Come join us for the Phoenix. If you enjoy Manly Monday, if you enjoy the podcast, the Fallible Man podcast, check it out, guys. Talk to other people and come be part of the Phoenix. Come seek your telos as you seek to become the best version of yourself. Finding your person, your purpose will help you set out on your mission. And I promise life becomes a lot more clear as you lock into that purpose. So check that out. www.thefallibleman.com/thephoenix, right? Thankfully, I know that off the top of my head. Let's get into our questions. And guys, be sure to put your questions in. Let us know what you have for us to address. We want to answer your questions tonight. How do I find a good mentor? This was sent earlier today by one of our listeners. How do I find a good mentor? Well, I joked with my wife earlier and it's like, well, Google's a good place to start. But really, right, it's deeper than that. And that's the problem. It's not like there's a great phone book for mentors. And there's questions you have to ask, right? I do coaching. I do men's coaching. I may not be the right mentor for you. My friend, Jim Fuller, who is going to be one of our speakers, is a life coach as well, besides a speaker and an author. He may be the great coach for you. My friend Oliver and Di, who are all 3 speaking at my event, are all coaches. Oliver specializes in relationship coaching. Him and his wife do marriage coaching and relationship coaching. Di does life coaching and business coaching. Di was the COO and co-founder of a multi-million-dollar business. So he's got an idea on his head, but he also came to a point where he went, hey, this isn't what I want for my life. I want to focus on my family, not the office all the time. And so he found that happy place for him. So there are a lot of good mentors out there. I've interviewed a lot on my podcast, and you can go back through my podcast episodes. I've interviewed a lot of great mentors. So how do you find that good one? Well, first you need to identify what it is you want from a mentor. What are you trying to grow in your life? Do you need a life coach? Do you need a relationship coach? Do you need a business coach? Do you need a YouTube coach? Do you need a personal development coach? What is your focus? Because first you have to identify who that mentor needs to be for you. What are you trying to adjust in your life? From there, it gets more convoluted, right? Like I said, you can go online and you can find coaches left and right. I know 2 female intimacy coaches that coach CEOs and high-powered, CEOs and businessmen in intimacy issues with their families. I have met porn addiction counselors who coach men through porn addiction, right? It really matters what you want to achieve out of that relationship. I actually did an interview with Sam Thiara. He is a adjunct professor up in Vancouver, Canada and I just went blank on the college name. My wife probably knows, but like, he was awarded a national award by the country of Canada for his work in mentorship. And Sam is a great resource for that, because that's one of the things he helps people do when they come to him, is find the right kind of mentor for them. Yours may not be that complicated. You might have to go any farther than a mentor relationship you already have in your life and you just don't realize it yet. That could be, thank you, Sarah. Yes, Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, Canada. He's an adjunct professor there, as well as having a business mentoring people. So that might be a relationship you already have, right? You can start there before you get into like paid mentorships. Start with people around you who can meet those needs. Figure out precisely what you're trying to achieve and then work out from there. And it really is complicated, but a good mentor, let me tell you this up front, a good mentor, when you find them, when you start connecting with them, the first thing they're going to do is help you isolate what you're after and help you decide if they're the right mentor for you. If they don't go, hey, what are you trying to get out of this? Let's make sure that we are the right connection. Just run. Anybody who just blindly says yes is not the right mentor, probably. So that's the best advice I can give you on that one. How many questions can I answer tonight? How do I know which friends to keep? Thank you. I'm grateful to my wife for she was writing all these down earlier and putting them so that way I had a list in front of me instead of the notebook paper that we had them on earlier. She's recommending Jonathan McLernan. He's a diet and exercise coach out of Canada that we worked with as a guest. Jonathan's awesome as a mentor as well. How do I know which friends to keep? Guys, this is a really simple answer. Do they add to your life or do they take away from your life? Do they support you and help you go where you want to go? Or do they pull you down and hold you back from going where you believe you need to go? That's the easiest way to go. If you are emotionally drained after interacting with them all the time, they're probably not the best friends to keep. If they pull you back towards the old version of you and don't want to go in the same direction or don't support you going in the direction you're going, I have a great friend who we're on very different paths, but he's very supportive about where I'm going and what my plan is, what I'm doing. He doesn't have to be on the same path, but he does support me on mine and I support him on his, right? He doesn't need to go. But if we're on two different paths and he keeps trying to drag me back to who I used to be instead of supporting me in growing in the direction I want to go, it's probably not a good person to keep in your life. And this can be really, really difficult and very painful because there are people in your life who are just going to drag you down. You need to get rid of them. They're just holding you back. And that can be really difficult because that can be loved ones, that can be family members, that can be friends you've had since high school that are still stuck in high school instead of heading in a direction that is growth, that is positive for their life. And that can be very painful. But if they're not at the very least supporting you in the direction you want to go, even if they're not heading in the same direction, they're not at least supporting you, trying to encourage you, trying to help you, it may be time to find a new set of friends. It's just that simple. How do I spot a fake friend? Go to Facebook. Oh, sorry. There's my Facebook bias coming out. Fake friends are easy. If you are giving to the relationship and they're not really your friend. Facebook has single-handedly, and I do blame Facebook for this, right? On Instagram, we call them followers. On Twitter, we call them followers. On Facebook, we call everybody friends. So I have like 500 or 600 friends on my Facebook account. I don't know most of them because I have a public account. I interact with people who interact with me on my Facebook, but they're not all friends. It has really dismantled the idea of friends. If you can't turn to that friend when you need help, they're not a friend. Dave was, acknowledging me earlier at the beginning of the show. I've spent the last couple of weeks going down and helping him every day because he's going through a rough patch in his life with the loss of a loved one. And he's got a lot of work to do to process through that situation, as well as deal with the legal and logistic issues in the situation. My friend called me. That's why I canceled the show 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. That's why I canceled the show. My friend called me. He needed me. It was that simple. That's friendship. That's what friendship looks like. If you don't have friends that will drop everything for you, if you don't have friends that are supporting you, that are encouraging you, that are contributing to your relationship. I was texting with a friend earlier tonight that's on here part of the time. And I was like, hey, I haven't heard from you. And so I wanted to check in just because I haven't heard from you the last week or two, because it means something to me that we're friends. And I want to keep this conversation going. And I just haven't heard from you. And it worries me. If they're not checking in, if you're the one doing all the work, that's a fake friend. Plain and simple. Are first impressions ever really inaccurate? Sarah, was that supposed to say accurate when you type those up? Like I said, my wife is engineering things in the background. She's writing down questions from all of our different contact points as we go. And so making sure that I'm reading that with correctly from her. Sarah says incorrect. Are first impressions ever really, are they ever not true? Yes. Yes. Okay. So the question is, are first impressions ever not accurate? Are incorrect? Can you have the wrong first impression of a person? Absolutely 100%. And I will tell you exactly why, because none of us are us when we first meet somebody. We put on the best version of ourselves, right? We put on the Sunday best. One of the greatest compliments I ever got was from a coworker who went out with me one night after work, and then he stopped by my house a couple weeks later for something. It was at my house for a little while, and at work one day he's like, "Man, you are exactly the same at work and at home and out." I was like, "Thank you." That was such a flattering compliment, because we all tend to put on that fake Sunday best because we want to make a good impression on somebody new. Not just because we want to make a good impression, because we're insecure when it comes to meeting somebody new. What if they don't like me? What if they think I'm nuts? What if they take one look at the way I look and run away screaming? What if they reject me? All of us are secretly insecure about being rejected by other people. All of us want to be accepted for who we are. That is an innate human characteristic. All of us desperately want to be accepted for who we are. And so in every situation when you encounter somebody for the first time, you run exactly into that issue of that fear of not being accepted, of not being taken as who we are. So we tend to put on a front. Even if it's a little one, we spiff it up just a little bit, right? We knock the dust off our shoes. We straighten our shirt, make sure we don't have crumbs on our shirt, brush out the beard, make sure there's no crumbs in the beard, because that's embarrassing, right? We tend to spruce up a little bit anytime we encounter somebody new, just to deal with our own insecurity. And so frequently we can give people the inaccurate first impression. That's why there's the early phase in a relationship, right? In like a romantic relationship, there's the early phase, and then there's the latter phase. Once you get comfortable with each other, right? This is different than this. We all did it. We all know. We all had a new relationship at some point. And this opens doors, does all this, right? Not the same a year later or 2 years later sometimes, right? So that's what we're dealing with that. So first impressions can absolutely be inaccurate. Some people tend to have a sixth sense about these things. Some people tend to just be able to filter it out, right? Dogs have this amazing ability to source out people are good or bad or whatever on first impressions. Humans are not quite as accurate at that, so they can absolutely be inaccurate. I hope that answers the question. I got one more here, guys. If you got any more questions, I hope I'm answering these the best for you I can. Well, I am answering the best for you I can, but I hope you're getting something out of this. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Be sure and leave us a like, comment, share this video if it's helping you, if you're getting anything out of it. That helps us. And be sure and check out our podcast. Guys, your support, reviews on the podcast are worth their weight in gold for us. That helps me grow my business and be able to continue to do those shows and these. So check us out on the podcast. That is our main platform besides these shows. And unless someone else comes up with another question, what actor would you want to play you in a movie of your life? Wow. I'm really not even sure how to answer that. Because I automatically am starting to try and source, well, who looks like me, right? But actors can be anybody. So yeah, I automatically start sorting like Vin Diesel. He kind of looks like me, right? Got the shaved head. I'm not saying I look like Vin Diesel, but right? I could see. I've seen a movie with him with a beard. I could see him pull that off. But I don't know that I'd want him to play me. I'm just thinking about who looks like me. So hey, that's the question for tonight. In the chat or in the comments, guys, whether you're catching this on the replay or you're catching this live. And guys, if you're catching this on the replay, ask your questions in the chat, okay, or in the comment section, and I'll get to them on the next one. I promise. We do a Q&A at the end of every show. It's not usually the whole show, but we do a Q&A at the end of every show. So if you had questions and you're on the replay and you didn't get to participate in this, put your questions in the comment section under the video you're watching, and I'll answer the Q&A question that you have on the next show. I promise. That's just what I do. So leave your questions if you didn't get them answered tonight. And that is my question to you, because I've never honestly thought about this question before. So let me ask you, which actor would you want to play you in a movie about your life? That's got some deep connotations to it. So I think I got to think about that. I'll work on that one for you guys for the next one. Let us know, who would you want to play which actor would you want to play you in a movie about your life? Forgive me this thirsty work. Lots of hot lights that you can't see. And let us know. Put that in the comments in the chat. I'd love to know your answers, because I'm kind of stumped on this one. But I will work on that question for you guys. We have no more questions. Let me check. I don't see any more questions coming in on my DMs or anywhere else. So guys, thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. Man, I love hanging out with you guys and just chatting. I hope you got something out of this. It was a lot of fun. It was a very different show for me to do. And guys, those were on the spot. So I didn't go through these questions beforehand. So I hope I answered your questions in a great way. As always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today, and we'll see you on the next one.